It began in the middle of a quiet morning, outside a small-town library where children lined up for story hour. No protests, no shouting. Just an ordinary day until one officer's rage turned it into a nightmare. When Officer Brian Keller confronted Dr. Maya Collins that morning, he thought he was dealing with someone powerless, someone who would bend under his authority. But what he didn't know was that Maya carried a truth that could not be silenced. What followed was not just a clash between a woman and an officer. It became a test of dignity, justice, and the very soul of a community. Before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe so more stories like this reach people who need to hear them. Dr. Maya Collins never looked for attention. She preferred to move quietly through her small Texas town, the kind of place where everyone knew each other's faces, but not always their stories. By profession, she was a university lecturer, sharp, respected, and deeply committed to mentoring young students who came from backgrounds like hers. But outside the classroom, Maya blended in. She drove the same aging sedan she'd owned for years, wore simple clothes, and often walked to the local library where she volunteered to read to children on weekends. That morning, she carried a tote bag filled with brightly illustrated books, ready to spend an hour with the kids who always lit up when she spoke. She wore no robe of authority, no title pinned to her chest. To the world around her, she looked like any ordinary woman going about her day. But in America, for black women like Maya, ordinary has never meant safe. Standing outside the library, she noticed a police cruiser pull up across the street. At first, she thought nothing of it. Officers often patrolled the area. But the way the man inside was watching her made her pause. His eyes weren't scanning the crowd. They were fixed on her. Officer Brian Keller stepped out, his movements brisk, heavy with the kind of anger that arrives before words are spoken. He didn't see a volunteer or a scholar. He didn't see the woman children adored for her kindness. All he saw was someone to control, someone to put in her place. "Ma'am, step over here," Officer Keller barked. Maya froze for a second, clutching her tote bag. "Is there a problem, officer?" she asked, her voice calm but cautious. "That bag. What's in it?" His eyes narrowed. He didn't wait for her answer. He took a step closer, hand resting on his belt, his authority radiating like a warning siren. "Books," she said softly. She tilted the bag slightly so he could see the colorful covers. "I'm reading to the children inside." But Keller wasn't satisfied. He circled her like a hawk. "ID now!" Maya reached into her purse, pulled out her driver's license, and handed it over. He studied it longer than necessary, as if her name itself offended him. "What are you really doing here?" he pressed, voice low, almost sneering, her chest tightened. She had heard of encounters like this. Neighbors stopped for walking home at night, friends pulled over for no reason at all. She never thought it would happen in front of children waiting eagerly for story hour. "Officer, I'm a volunteer," she explained, forcing steadiness into her words. "I come here every Saturday. You can ask the librarian," but Keller didn't move. His voice rose. "Don't tell me what I can do. Around here, I decide who belongs and who doesn't." The words cut deeper than a command. They revealed the truth. This wasn't about safety. It was about power, about making her feel small, right there on the steps of the library. By now, a few parents and passers-by had stopped, watching in uneasy silence. Maya felt heat rising in her face, a mix of fear and humiliation. Should she defend herself more strongly? Or would that make things worse? "Sir," she tried again, "the children are waiting. Enough!" Keller snatched the tote bag from her hands, ripping it open. Books spilled onto the ground, their bright illustrations scattering across the concrete. The scene was no longer private. It was public, raw, undeniable. But Keller didn't care. He leaned in close, his voice almost a growl. "People like you think you can walk around here like you own the place. Not on my watch." Maya stood frozen, her body trembling. Her entire life, her degrees, her years of teaching, her quiet service to the community, none of it seemed to matter in this moment. To him, she was reduced to a single thing: someone to dominate. And yet, even as fear threatened to silence her, a part of Maya refused to break. She straightened her shoulders, looked him in the eye, and said with quiet defiance, "You're wrong. I do belong here." The words didn't shout. They didn't beg. But they struck like a spark in a dry field, and in that instant, the confrontation shifted. Keller could feel the eyes on him, the judgment forming, but instead of stepping back, he doubled down. His grip tightened on her arm. What happened next would turn a moment of humiliation into a full-blown crisis, one that no one in that town would ever forget. Officer Keller's grip on Maya's arm tightened, his knuckles pale with force. She winced, but didn't cry out. He wanted her humiliation to be loud, to be obvious. She refused to give him that satisfaction. "Turn around. Hands behind your back," he ordered, his voice cold. "For what?" Maya's voice cracked for the first time. "I've done nothing wrong." One man finally spoke up. "Officer, that's not necessary. She's not resisting." But Keller barked back, "Stay out of it!" His tone carried the weight of authority, designed to shut down any protest. Maya's cheek pressed against the cold stone. Her wrists were yanked back so hard she thought her shoulders might tear. The metallic snap of handcuffs rang out, sharp and final. The children inside the library peered out through the glass doors, wide-eyed. To them, the woman who read stories about courage and kindness was now being dragged away like a criminal. The humiliation was complete. Books lay abandoned on the ground, their pages fluttering in the breeze like silent witnesses, and then the final blow. Keller turned to the crowd, smirking as if to prove a point. "This is what happens when people don't know their place." The words hung heavy in the air, poisonous, undeniable. It wasn't just an arrest. It was a message. Maya's head lifted slightly despite the cuffs biting into her skin. Her voice, though strained, carried across the silent crowd. "My place is here, and so is yours. Remember that." For the first time, Keller's confidence faltered. Cameras caught every second, and in that moment the story shifted from one woman's humiliation to a community's awakening. By the end of that morning, Maya Collins was booked, fingerprinted, and held in a cell meant for people who had committed real crimes. Her charge? Disorderly conduct. A hollow accusation meant to justify the bruises on her wrists and the officer's abuse of power. But outside those jail walls, something unexpected was happening. The videos recorded by bystanders spread quickly, first across the town, then across the state. Soon her name was trending online, not as a criminal, but as a symbol of what happens when dignity collides with unchecked authority. Parents from the library spoke out. The librarian herself released a statement. "Dr. Collins has given years of service to our children. She is not a threat. She is a gift to this community." Public pressure mounted. The charge was quietly dropped days later. Keller was placed on leave, his record suddenly under scrutiny. But the scars, the public humiliation, the pain of being treated like an intruder in her own neighborhood, those would not vanish as quickly. For Maya, freedom wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a larger truth. She realized her humiliation had sparked something powerful. People who had once stayed silent about similar encounters were now speaking out. Teachers, delivery drivers, store clerks, all telling their stories of being stopped, questioned, demeaned for no reason other than who they were. This is the weight of injustice. It doesn't just wound individuals. It seeps into the soul of a community, teaching children that fairness is conditional, that respect can be revoked without cause. But Maya's final words still lingered, echoing far beyond that library. "My place is here." It's a reminder that belonging is not granted by authority. It is inherent, unshakable, and worth defending, no matter the cost. Don't let stories like this be forgotten. Hit like and subscribe. Your support keeps the fight against injustice alive.